I'm not going to take up too much time. I'm just going to hand it over to our crew with Fleet Panda. They can introduce themselves and what they're going to do. I will make you the host and go right ahead and take it away.
Thanks so much, Mikey. It's always a delight having you along. So,
Thank you.
hello everyone. Uh, Thank you for choosing to spend your time with us. Today we have a very solid agenda. Let me just share the screen and we should have it. I'm sorry for that. Uh, Today we'll take you through what digital transformation means for fuel marketers, and not just us two blabbering about it. Rather, we have very on-ground based case studies and use cases as well as journey snippets right from the horse's mouth, as they say. So we have we could not have our customers join the webinar, but we have voice snippets and video snippets from them on how this journey came about for them and what are the advantages, disadvantages, challenges, and the end result of this journey. So with that in mind, let us introduce ourselves. So my name is Rohit, and I am currently the head of marketing for Fleet Panda. And before this, I have been in tech for the past decade or so, and I have led marketing at some of the fastest growing companies in the valley as well as other parts of the world. And with me is Harini.
Yeah. So, hello everyone. I'm Harini, and I've led product marketing and a lot of tech startups, including one particular software which I think is very relevant for our conversation, which is digital transformation software, and used by Fortune 1000 companies and like small companies, everything, right? So it'll be good to bring some of that customer on ground experience to this webinar. Cool. So what is exactly the agenda for today, right? We'll keep it tight. We won't be blabbering on for too long. As Rohit said, we have video snippets as well from our customers, from your peers. So that's going to be definitely very interesting. So first, we're going to be talking about what digital transformation exactly is. Next, why and when does it make sense for fuel marketers to actually invest in it. And if you have decided to go through it, that what is the best way to do that, right? And what are some common pitfalls that we've seen people usually go through, and how you can potentially avoid them or solve that. So next is, what exactly is digital transformation? Listen, we've heard this word thrown around a lot, right? Especially the past 10, 15 years, it's everywhere. But what exactly is it at the core of it? So this is actually a definition. It isn't given by us. It's given by the world's biggest consulting company out there, which is McKinsey, right? And what they say is, it is the rewiring of an organization with the goal of creating value by continuously deploying tech at scale. Now, I know there's a lot of jargon, but thankfully they also have a version that is translated from all this corporate speak, which is basically that you should be able to build a competitive advantage by continuously deploying tech at scale to improve both customer experience and also lower costs. Which, listen, that sounds like the dream, right? Like that is the jackpot right there. You get competitive leverage, you have happier customers, and at the end of the day, you have a much fatter bottom line. But obviously, it is much easier said than done. And in this webinar, the idea is that we kind of arm you with all of the knowledge that you will need to actually go through with this process. So in the next slide is some context on the customers that we have mentioned in the webinar's title, right? So obviously we are basing this webinar on our entire experience of serving a multitude of customers over the years, but we will be mainly focusing on the lessons that we have learned through the digital transformation journeys of these three customers, which is Moffitt, McNeece, and 3L Energy, right? You will be seeing videos of them speak. We don't have them, but we do have very good videos. So let's start with Moffitt, right? So this is a story of very rapid growth and scale. They are pretty big fuel marketer in Texas. They have 4 different business lines like fuel and lube distribution, but also common carriers or brokerage and disaster recovery, right? So they expanded quite a bit. Like they went from 25 to 39 million gallons in just 1 year in 2023. And what they realized is they needed a lot more granularity in the kind of data that they were looking at. They realized that they did not have a lot of visibility into their operations. What's going on? Like, what kind of decisions should I make? Should I buy more trucks? Should I, is there a way to make things more efficient right now? So they realized that they needed a lot more data granularity, and that's when they came to us. So I will show you the video once I'm done with the other 2 customers, right? So next is McNeece. This is a 4th generation business. Like they've been operating for 100+ years, right? And they kind of, the newest generation, the youngest one right now, they kind of wanted to bring the business to the 21st century, because obviously they're doing well, that's why they've been around all this time, but there was a lot of manual work, there was a lot of paper shuffling, and Patrick McNeece was actually like, listen, there has to be a better way with all the tech that's out there these days. So, and that's when they went to search for something and they found us. The next one, the last one, is 3L Energy, and this one's very, very interesting actually. So they're also based in Texas, and the story is interesting because it's, a merger story, right? So Spec Oil is actually an above the rack commodity trading firm, right? And they wanted to kind of expand into the last mile sector because they wanted to capture that higher margin that was kind of available in the downstream sector, right? So they went out, they bought 3 different distributors of like 10 to 15 truck size each, and they merged all of it into one. And what they wanted to do is they wanted to grow that operation like tenfold, right? There was obviously the different processes with each of these different distributors, a lot of efficiencies, communication gaps, and this resulted in a lot of errors and reduced profit margins, which is not what they wanted. Like they came in for this downstream sector for the higher margins, right? So they wanted to automate the end-to-end process so they can get that all out of the way. So I think we can show the videos of Moffitt to start with. So this is by Carl Kleinman. He is the owner and partner of Moffitt Services, and he talks about why he felt the need to come in. Yeah.
Talk about kind of what I did prior to this. I spent about 27 years in the human resources outsourcing space. In that business, we crossed kind of several thresholds of where we just had to become more data centric, right? Early on, it had to be more about the value proposition and making our user interface better and easier for our clients. And then in kind of the next threshold, when we probably got to 15 or 20,000 employees, we had to make it a better experience for the employees themselves. At the next threshold, which might have come at 30 or 40,000, we had to get a better handle on which clients were profitable and which ones weren't, which meant we needed a lot more data granularity to do that. When we started this business, I kind of had that same mindset. At certain points in time, we're going to have to get better at certain things to keep kind of propelling the business and growing, and most importantly, scaling the business. I just knew that we needed a system that could help us connect the dots from, what fuel did we purchase on this day? What trucks did we put it in? Where did that fuel ultimately go? Which driver took the fuel? Which truck transported the fuel? Which customer did we sell it to? At which location of that customer? Which asset of ours? We own about 2,600 tanks that we loan our customers, right? So what tank did we put it in? And all of that was either for the purpose of us being able to really do better business intelligence on our business. And in some cases, it was to help our customers have better data.
So that was Carl Kleiman. We'll see a lot more videos of him. Next is from McNeece, Patrick McNeece, also a partner in the business.
Technological aspect of the world we live in today that we were kind of lacking with our old procedures and processes that had been in place for a long time. A lot of pen and paper and manual processes that have been part of the company for the last 30 or 40 years, and we've been successful with those processes. That's why we're around today. But with the technology out there, the stuff that's there now, the stuff that's coming down the pipeline, it's very we see it as very important that we got to adapt.
Yeah.
In this industry, there's been a lot of consolidation, a lot of bigger companies buying up smaller companies, and those big companies are utilizing these new forms of technology. So if we want to stay with the times, stay competitive, continue the family name in the petroleum industry, we have to adapt as well.
Yeah, it's great.
The guy on the left, by the way, is our CEO, Pavan. But yeah, anyway, take it over, Rohit. It's all yours.
Thanks so much, Harini. So with that context, obviously, you heard about the three customers that we've had, and they are amazing supporters as well as amazing businesses in their own stride. But this webinar and this entire concept is not just based on three examples, but more general conversations that we keep on having with more and more fuel marketers out there. So while those three reasons are big enough, I think we have figured out a trend among the reasons of why fuel marketers invest in digital transformation nowadays. Whoever is interested or are in the process or sort of later in the journey, these are the five reasons that we have figured out, that these are the five reasons that sort of contribute to the digital transformation journey for them. The five reasons, as you can see, I'll just read it out and then we go in detail for each one. The first one is spending too much time firefighting. The second is current processes inhibit the growth that they imagine or they target. Third is obviously high competition in the entire industry. Fourth is rising cost, specifically of things that are beyond your control. And fifth is business intelligence for making wise decisions, future decisions, and for the next phase of growth. So if we go in a bit detail on each thing, on each point, spending too much time firefighting essentially means is there is so much inefficiency in the process when you are dependent on pen and paper or archaic tools or tools not built for this. I specifically remember one of our customers that came in was using Outlook as a method, Outlook calendar as a method of scheduling deliveries. I mean, Excels and pen and paper and all of that we can understand, but Outlook, this industry really needed a transformation from there. So there are multiple things that you do just to keep the lights on, right? But when you're firefighting every day just to keep the lights on, who is thinking about the next stage of growth? That is where digital transformation becomes very imperative, because once you have transformed your business digitally, your digitized your business processes, then you have enough time to focus on the next stage of growth. And that is why we see businesses taking that journey. Then the second part is current processes inhibit growth. While I can explain this, I think Carl does it much better. I think you should listen to him rather.
What worked for us at 50 deliveries a day just didn't work at all at 150 deliveries a day, right? The paper tickets, waiting on those paper tickets to get from the field back to one central point, to get scanned, to get back to our home office, to get in the biller's hands. Just the extra couple of days involved in that for us is a couple of $1 million in flow. And so that impacts cash flow. It impacts a lot of things, right?
So if time is money is the age-old adage. I think Carl explains it beautifully. Is basically your current processes, while they have got you here, will not get you to the next stage. And obviously, even in this current state, you are losing money because of the inefficiency of the process. And then the third is rising costs. Now, rising cost, obviously, trucks are getting expensive, all the equipment is getting expensive, all the hardware is getting expensive. Driver shortage has always been there and is now at the highest. And Carl puts it very beautifully that the cost of mismanaged logistics or cost of inefficient logistics right now has been the highest ever. I think you should just listen to them.
But one thing that I know for sure is the cost of bad logistics is higher than it's ever been. And here's what I mean. The hourly pay rate for CDL drivers with their hazmat and tanker endorsement has never been higher than it is right now. The cost of a fuel truck, particularly tank wagons, but frankly any truck, transport, bobtail, you name it, is higher than it's ever been in my lifetime, in your lifetime. Okay. So if you're not optimizing the method and manner in which you're deploying those resources every day, you are in bigger trouble than you've ever been. So for the little guys who've been doing it on paper, this has been working. I would say their pain is higher today than it's ever been. That is what is different in 2023 than it was, particularly in say 2021 and before. We've seen such a rise in inflation.
So essentially, you cannot control the cost of your bobtail, but you can very well make your existing processes more efficient and save a lot of cost on how you operate the business. So control things that you can while optimizing for things that you cannot. And the final thing is the business intelligence part. I think this was explained beautifully earlier by Carl as well, but I think he adds a lot more context later in this section. So how does bringing all the data together helps you make better decision for your business? I think this is a great example of that.
I think anytime you can get data in one central place, it can be powerful. So, for example, the ability to look at the efficiency of each truck, the efficiency of each driver, the efficiency of each of our tank assets that we loan our customers. And when I say efficiency, meaning, what is the return on that investment? How many miles, how many deliveries, and how many gallons can a truck make in a day, or can a driver make in a day? And just understanding those metrics and understanding and being able to recognize the best performers, also being able to recognize those that might need help or training, or maybe they need tools of the trade that we're not providing. Yeah, whatever the case may be, I think that data will be powerful. Once you start having this data at your fingertips, so when you see, what time every truck arrived at every delivery, how long that delivery took, what time they departed, what time they went through the geo fence for that delivery, how much product they have on the truck without having to communicate with the driver. It stimulates, my mind anyway, and almost creates an endless quest for the things you can do with that data, things to drive efficiency and drive productivity. For example, fill efficiency, us having a better opportunity to know, how much fuel we put into what size tank to give us fill efficiency data. That's been difficult for us to collect and analyze in the paper mode that we were in before.
Now we actually have real-time data that we can use in analytics and making business decisions on how we want to proceed in growing the company.
So you heard from Carl and you heard from Alex. Carl representing Moffitt and Alex representing 3L on how data is important. But I think one line that sticks out every time that I hear Carl speak is, once you have the data set up right, it's an endless quest on things that you can make more efficient. So with that, we move on to the final advantage of why businesses choose competitive differentiation, and this is from Alex from 3L. And this one, while seems very logical, I think there's a deeper layer to it, which Alex illustrates beautifully.
As far as why we have a technology at the forefront of how we want to operate in decision making, it comes from differentiation. We offer the same service and sell pretty much the same products as our competitors do. The question becomes, how can we provide a better service to our customers that makes us stand out in the pack? And I think offering technologically based solutions to our customers that our competitors, quite frankly, don't offer is a good way for us to stand out in the marketplace. And in that regard, that's why technology and data is at the forefront of everything we do. If we're able to utilize technology to not only make our lives a lot better, but also improve our customers' lives,
it's going to be invaluable to everyone that's a stakeholder in our company. I really believe technology is an underutilized tool in our sector.
Exactly. So it's not just about the efficiency, it's also about the experience, and not just your employee experience, but the end user experience as well. The way that you send your invoices, the way that everything is integrated, the way the visibility is there for your end customer, all of that comes together, and that is where you're not just delivering fuel, but you are also adding a layer of user experience based on on top of it. And every time I go back to the quote by Maya Angelou is people never forget how you make them feel. That is where custom competitive differentiation using software and digital transformation comes at your service.
As far as why we
I'm sorry. So while we understand the three cases with our three esteemed customers, we also understand what is the general trend that we see whenever somebody is opting for digital transformation. But we have to also understand in a company's evolution, when does it make sense to invest in digital transformation and how you should go about it. So the next next couple of sections in this webinar, we'll try to cover both of those in uh, however detail is required to illustrate that, and I'll pass it on to Hari.
Yep. Thank you, Rohit. So going to, the when question. So for this, we actually looked at all of our customers to try and find similar patterns between them using various parameters, right? So the first thing we looked at was the number of business lines. Does it mean that when you have a lot more business lines that you need tech? So we have customers with just fuel distribution, but we also have ones that do like 4 different business lines, just like, Moffitt that we spoke about. We also looked at the number of trucks. There as well, we have customers with just a couple of trucks, all the way up to 100 plus. Next thing we looked at was actually the number of branches, because the more number of branches, the more communication issues arise, and we want to know if that was a factor. There as well, we saw that whether we had customers with just one single building, very regional family business, but also businesses that have expanded to like 6-7 different states in the country. The last thing we wanted to take a look at was how long they've been business. And this is where we found something interesting, actually. So obviously, we've had like fourth generational business that we just spoke about, like McNeece, they've been around for more than a century. But we also see a lot of very, very new fuel marketing businesses that come to us, right? The youngest or like the earliest one was this particular customer. They actually have a rentals and services business, like this big rentals and services business for dumpsters and fencing and waste disposal, etc. And they had decided to start like a sister company, right, just for on-site fuel and lube delivery. So what they had done was they had made an order for like I think 3-4 trucks, and they had immediately started looking for logistics and back office and all of those solutions, right? We were pretty like amazed, like what made you come to a technological solution so early, especially in this industry where people go for decades without them and they're fine, right? So, and this is what he said, like word to word. They said that, listen, this business has a lot of moving parts and we want to start it right. Like we want to have all the foundational setup ready. So this was something that surprised us. So I guess what I'm trying to say is there's no magic formula where it's like if you are in this particular stage of your company with this number of trucks, like there's no magical formula like that. But what we would say is that if you are facing any of the pains that Rohit just mentioned, right, like these are usually the reasons why companies come to us. So companies go to, other different types of software like this. If you are feeling any of these pains, then that is a pretty good indicator that it might be time to look at a solution. Like if you're feeling, okay, we're doing good, but there's just so many things that we need to get done and too many calories being spent on getting those things done. Like there's so much opportunity to optimize things and run a tighter ship around here. If you're feeling that way, then it's the right time to start looking for a solution, right? In the next slide, we start taking a look at how exactly one should go through this process of digital transformation. There are three main questions that come up, right? As soon as you go into this digital transformation journey, like the three um, top questions that come. First is, do I outsource it to a vendor or do I just build it in-house? We have seen a few marketers out there who kind of build their in-house software because they feel that their workflows or their processes are so unique to them that it just does not fit into any software out there, that it just cannot be accommodated by anything on the market. But what happens is it usually does not scale up and it breaks down as you grow. It needs a whole lot of maintenance, like a whole IT team, constant upgrades, constant feature requests, all of that, right? So, like, let's not kid ourselves. Like, if you are able to hire, say, 10, 15 developers, a few product managers, some testers, and the whole thing, right? You can technically build and maintain anything. But the question here is, would you want to do it? Because then you're in businesses. You're like in the software, like the tech business, and then you're in the fuel business. And as we all know, developers cost a lot of money, right? Like, and I especially know this because I am a computer science major myself. And when it was time to choose my career path, I looked at like my fellow developer friends and I'm like, damn, they're making a lot of money. Straight out of college, they're getting like $150,000 salary. And I'm like, should I maybe go there? But then I hate coding, so I was like, it's fine. I'll just go into marketing. But there's that, right? It costs a lot of money, whether it's one developer, even if it's one developer, right? So the question is, do you want to spend all of that resources, and by resources, I mean time, money, and energy to build something that you can easily outsource? So our suggestion is, if you have all of that money and resources, it makes a lot more sense to spend it on your core business, right? So anything that is not your core business, it's always best to outsource to the expert, is what we would suggest. The second thing is, do you go for an all-in-one solution or a best of breed solution? So the main reason that companies used to go in for all-in-one solutions, like historically, is because it sounds wonderful, right? It sounds almost magical. Like you have this one system that your entire company, with all of its departments, they use that one system. Data is flowing across different departments. Everything is smooth. Everything's being taken care of by this one magical piece of software. And at least in the fuel industry right now, it is still a mythical creature because it is not available today. There is no one system, unfortunately, that does all of your different parts of your businesses, right? Like the back office, the logistics, the sourcing, the human resources, taxes, everything really well. I'll let Carl talk about it in a few minutes, but like that is the main reason why we would say that it's not best to go for an all-in-one solution. Especially as you grow, you need the best possible solution for your different parts of your business, right? Not an average one that kind of does a lot of your things, but it's kind of average, right? That's not what you want, especially as you grow. So another reason why another reason why best of breed all-in-one, it might not be the best solution, is you kind of get stuck in one vendor's ecosystem and you're at their mercy, right? We've seen this play out with monopolistic vendors, and it usually gets pretty ugly because they can increase their prices on a whim. They can just not give support after the sale. They can acquire newer products and sunset the existing ones. Especially the vendors who grow by acquiring products and not building them in-house. The whole integrations point becomes null and void because they need not spend a lot of time making the systems talk to each other, which is why you would go to them in the first place, right? So that's another main reason why it's always best to go for the expert solution for each of your different parts of your businesses, right? And to answer the integrations question that I, stated earlier, it was difficult earlier to build good integrations between different products, but that is not the case right now. That is not the case with the modern software, tech stack, and capabilities that are out there right now. Especially with things like APIs, cloud-based technology, SaaS products having a lot more modular architecture and not like a rigid architecture. Integrations is not a big deal anymore. It's very, very easy to build. So if you are able to get the best possible solution for different parts and tie them all together, then that is ideal, right? And that's what Carl talks about in this video. You can play that, Rohit.
My opinion. Our strategy is a best of breed strategy, and what that means is we would rather integrate multiple systems to communicate with each other and get the best of breed in each category. So those major kind of corner posts in this for us would be accounting or ERP, logistics, and payroll and HR, right? Yeah, and we don't believe there's a best of breed payroll HR solution that happens to be bundled in with either logistics or ERP, by the way. That's our strategy. Now, let me tell you, because I've wrestled with this in my prior industry as well. I think the bigger we get, the more our opinion looks like mine, where I'd rather have the absolute best of breed.
Yeah, so the third question is, do I buy on-prem software or do I go for a cloud-based solution? While on-prem software still has its use, still has its place in specific use cases where security is of utmost importance. And by that, I'm talking about like the government or like defense. Like in these use cases, on-prem is still the best way to go. But in most other industries, including the fuel marketing industry, cloud-based software is a no-brainer. And that's why even very legacy vendors out there are moving from on-prem solutions to actually cloud-based solutions these days. So some of the benefits of cloud-based solutions is, number one, you can access it from anywhere in the world. You don't need to sit in an office to use that piece of software. So if a driver comes in late, the biller doesn't have to wait in the office till they come in and, so that they can invoice. Like they can be sitting in their house, process that invoice and just send it out, right? The second thing is cost effective. Like cloud software is just so much more cost effective, and I'm not talking about just the upfront cost but also the ongoing maintenance costs, right? The third is scalability. It is a lot more easier to scale with cloud-based software, like especially with things like Amazon Web Services that we have today. It just takes a few clicks of a button to actually scale that software as you grow, right? So it's definitely a no-brainer, especially for our industry, to go for cloud-based software and not, kind of go through all the hassle that comes with on-prem. Over to you, Rohit, to talk about now how you should go about, digital transformation if you have decided to go through with it.
Yeah, thanks, Harini. I think we have set the stage right with understanding on why and when you should opt for digital transformation. I think one of the biggest things that everybody has doubts or has had doubts in our conversation is what exactly do you look for while evaluating tech options, right? Because even though our industry has been comparatively underserved, but still we have a lot of options out there. Like our customers have a lot of option out there to evaluate the multiple vendors out there. So we have just kept simplified the reasons and the evaluation parameters in four simple parts, if I may say. The one is do more with less. The second is adaptability to grow and change. The third is a tech partner to lean on. And the fourth is they should be empowering your team. Now, this sound as vague as possible, but we'll go in detail and explain what each of these means. So just bear with me. The first thing is doing more with less. Now we have established that the costs are going up. We understand that there are things that are beyond our control. So we need to figure out solutions that do more with less, right? When we say do more with less, there are two aspects of it, and what it basically means is the first one, you need to understand what is the true cost of ownership of a software. Now, while all of us evaluate or like the price of the software is one of the key criteria on how on whether you want to go along with its implementation or not, or you essentially whether you want to buy it or not. But what we don't really understand or what we sort of overlook is the true cost of ownership. Now, what comprises of true cost of ownership? One is the initial setup and implementation. So basically, how much time is committed to initial setup and how much time it is actually taking, because you are paying for that time. The faster the implementation, faster the value that you are getting out of that implementation, out of that software, and hence that becomes a factor. The second thing is maintenance and upgrades. Uh, how is the software getting maintained? Is that going to cost you more? The upgrades coming to the platform, the newer features, the newer modules that they will launch, is that an additional cost on top of the software cost that you need to be mindful of? Third, how is the support for that particular software? Is it wrapped in the price that you are already paying, or there are certain limited hours or certain limited channels? For example, a lot of software just offer email as a support, right? That doesn't work out when one of your trucks is stuck at a customer location. You need somebody on the phone and right away. So basically, how is that support? The channel of the support, the cost of the support, do extra hours cost you more, and so on. The fourth is the training cost involved. So not just in the beginning, which I think every vendor will provide, but what you need to be mindful of is the newer modules that release, or when you have a change of hardware at your end, and then the software needs to change to integrate to that. How would that training be provided by the software vendor? So essentially, a very comprehensive training, because training is all that you would need to get value out of the software. So how is that training cost? And you should have like a very clear calculation on how that training sort of bakes into the entire cost. And the fifth one is the additional hardware or infrastructure requirement. This comes in sneakily at the end, because when you are very sure about the software and when you want to go ahead with it, and then you figure out you need specialized hardware just to run that software for at your end, and that comes at a huge cost, because it multiplies with the number of trucks in your fleet, with number of vehicles, with number of locations, and so on and so forth. So you need to calculate that upfront, and you need to be very blunt on asking how does the additional hardware and whatever infrastructure is required. And you should mostly opt for, and there are software available, not just Fleet Panda, there are options available where you can opt for software that runs on existing hardware that you already have, in terms of phones and in terms of meters and so on, so on and so forth. The second part of doing more with less is the ability to integrate and play nice with the rest of your tech stack. Now, in all probabilities, you already have some software installed for certain key tasks, key functions in your organization. This new software that comes in needs to integrate very flawlessly with all of the existing tech stack that you have to run your business. It cannot have a siloed infrastructure or siloed way of working where the data does not flow from your existing tech stack, or even the tools that you're planning to buy in the near or coming future, right? So you need to understand the intent to integrate and the ability to integrate at the present time, so that you don't need to change other softwares because of the digital transformation and digitized process automation software that you have, basically dispatch software that you have integrated till now. This sort of goes, both of these things go along not just with dispatch software, but with all other kinds of software that you might be evaluating. So this works out as a good checklist to just evaluate any vendor that you will go for. The second thing is the adaptability to growth and changes. Uh, so basically, there are two parts. One, you have to understand, is that software built maybe a decade or more earlier, and it has been stuck in time since then? Or does the software has constant improvements, with new features and modules and fixing the issues, right? So you need to be you need to understand that the software is a living and breathing thing, and how fast they are coming up with new features and new modules, right? Second thing is, most probably your way of working will be right now in a very custom in a very specific way. So you need to understand, does the software adapt to your workflows, or do you have to adapt your workflows to the software? Because the second way around, it's not going to be easy, because you have been operating in a certain way. Your all of your workforce is trained in that manner. It's not going to be very easy in adapting to the new way of working because of using a software, right? So you need to figure out a flexible software that works, or mod that modifies its own self according to your way of working. One of the ways that we have seen, or one of the trends that we have seen, is whenever a company has been acquired earlier, it becomes very stiff because the tech team sort of is no more, or at least the tech focus is no more on the product, and hence you do not see the feature of the velocity of feature releases. You do not see the adaptability to newer technology, and hence you do not see the flexibility needed for a new age software, as compared to when there's an independent company focusing on the software. It's a living breathing thing that is evolving every quarter, every year, into something new, and hence the adaptability and the flexibility to change is clearly being seen. The next one is, you need to understand that the tech partner is somebody that you can lean on, or you can have that support, or you can basically look forward to talking to them on anything about tech that you would need across in your company, right? So for that, you need to check what is the team composition of the vendor. Uh, Essentially, if more than 80% of the entire team is just sales and implementation people, that then you have to understand that the software is stuck in time, and the people are just focusing on the revenue piece and getting it to more customers. I'm not saying that software doesn't work, but that team is not really a tech team anymore. It's more of a sales team, and more of a growth team rather than a tech team. So when you're looking for a tech vendor, you need to see that at least 50% of the team composition is of developers and engineers, essentially tech experts, because in a tech company you expect them to be. The second is feature versus future. Right now, there might be a lot of tech vendors who will give you a lot of features currently, but then you are not in this business for a year or two. You have been in this business for multiple decades, and you will be in this business for multiple decades. So you need to look at a company who's focused to be here for the next coming decades or two, right? Because you need to evolve with them. You need to grow. You need them to grow with you, so that you can, like, you don't have to go through this hassle of changing a software every few years, because of this being a workflow software. It is the way your business operates. You don't want to change the software every so often, right? And finally is the support that can be accessed anytime. I think there are a lot of critical business workflows that depend on this kind of a software, and hence whenever something is stuck, that support, like, there it has become a norm that name calling usually gets your tickets resolved in multiple companies that we have heard of. It should not be the norm. Your support should be answerable in the next couple of minutes whenever you need them, because that is what essential services support is for. And you should not be accepting of a subpar support, customer support standards. The final thing is empowering your team. Now there are two pieces, the two parts of it. One is, when you give your team a software that is so polished and so dependable in terms of data and usability, what you are giving them is something to look forward to in their daily life. So you are essentially upgrading their quality of work life by a massive upgrade. I mean, look at the dashboard. It looks beautiful. I always am in awe, and this is a living, breathing dashboard. This is taken from uh, our own software. So when they log in, and they are taken from a pen and paper based system to something like this, they look forward to doing more, and they are much more efficient as compared to before. So their quality of life improves, their output improves. They have access to all the data that they need. They are not constantly on the phone. Like our one of the most loved features that we have in our platform is the driver and dispatcher notes. The love-hate relationship between the drivers and dispatchers of just calling each other all the time on phone. We basically get rid of it because now they can communicate asynchronously. It's a very small feature, to be honest, but it is one of the highest impact on quality of life that both on dispatchers and drivers end that we keep on hearing back, right? So things like these empower them to just love their work more and do it more efficiently at the same time, and hence it turns B players into A players, right? So when that data, so for example, if I might run a scenario through you, right now most of your business critical operations is limited to a few minds in your company, which essentially is called tribal knowledge. When you implement a system that covers all of it, you're making tribal knowledge available to each and every person in the team, and hence all your B players also become A players because now they have the same access to the data and the knowledge that was spread across only to a few people. Now it is spread across to the organization. So this is what you need to look for when you're evaluating a tech vendor or a tech solution. Over to you, Hari.
Yeah, this is the last part. And this is, I think, a very important part because usually when you get on the ground and you start implementing it, these are the common pitfalls and that people go through, and we talk about how you can possibly avoid them, right? So the first thing is adoption. And when I talk about adoption, there are, I think, two things that come to mind. One is for the more older employees who have been doing this for a long time, and the next is for the more newer, like millennials and Gen Z that you're hiring or you'll be hiring in the future. So let me start with the first category, right? So the longer they've so in the first category, they've been doing this for a very long time. They have kind of perfected their craft. They know what they're doing, right? And suddenly, if you come in and you snap your fingers and you're like, listen, from tomorrow, we're going to be doing this differently. For this, you're going to use that. You're no longer going to be, doing it a certain way. There's obviously going to be a lot of pushback. Like, they're just going to be like, no, I've been doing this longer than you ever came into the picture. So how about no, right? I know better. But then these people are also the same people that go home and say use DoorDash for food delivery or Uber for cab. So it's not like they are tech averse, right? So the reason they're not maybe happy to do this in the workplace is because it's a change. And one, nobody likes change, and second, they've been doing this for a long time. So they're like, I already know that this is the best way to get it done. So the first thing is, if you're going to be coming to them with a better solution, it better actually be a very good solution. Like, you need to sit with them to kind of understand their problems and show how this solution will probably alleviate their issues. For example, telling an accounting person that, listen, you can focus on your actual work, but now with this new tech, you don't have to wait till the driver comes in to actually process the invoice. As soon as they do their delivery, the reconciliation part is kind of done already, and you get all of the delivery data, so you can do it immediately. So you don't have to do overtime maybe, or telling a driver who kind of knows their routes. They've been driving around the place for a long time. Listen, like now with AI, you have, like, I don't know, like traffic data or something like that. And because of that, you can now do lesser hours and do more deliveries. Like, getting to understand their problems and telling them that tech is just an enabler, it's not going to replace them, it's just going to make their life easier, and showing them that in action is very, very important, right? And for this, the way we solve it at Fleet Panda is during implementation, we sit with the dispatchers and the drivers. Like, we do ride-alongs with drivers, right? We sometimes even do pilots or small projects so that the org the entire organization can see value on a small scale, so that there's more buy-in from the employees, there's more motivation to go ahead and kind of expand it out, right? And the second thing is the younger generation, right? So they are tech first. They use tech, like millennials and Gen Z, they use tech all the time for everything, right? So if you come to them with very hard to use software, with complicated, old, buggy 90s based software, that is not something that they're going to be able to adopt easily, right? So ensure that the products that you buy are actually intuitive products in the first place, they're easy to use. That is half your work done, right? There's actually a video about this that Carl talks about. You can play that, Rohit.
Reservations. We had concerns. We've been doing it the way we've been doing it for a long time. We have a lot of people in our organization that have a lot of years of experience, both with us and in the industry. One of my least favorite terms is that's the way we've always done it. But that's a reality. So we knew reservations. We had concerns. We've been doing it the way we've been doing it for a long time. We have a lot of people in our organization that have a lot of years of experience, both with us and in the industry. One of my least favorite terms is that's the way we've always done it. But that's a reality. So we knew we were going to have to win people over. And so we kind of started methodically, department by department, drivers, dispatchers, billers, our inside sales team that takes orders from our customers, and really started kind of listening to them. And I think probably what was most useful to us was helping them understand and see the struggles that they were having with the current status quo, and then start to show them the components, the features, the benefits of Fleet Panda that could start to address some of those.
Yeah, very beautifully said. Like Carl is the man for all this. But yeah, the next thing is data cleanup and migration, right? Just the sound of it is annoying. It's a headache, right? But it is also very, very necessary. And the thing is, especially when you're in a pen and paper mode, the data that's available currently, there's a very good chance that there are a lot of inaccuracies. There's a very good chance that there's a lot of duplicate data in different forms in different places. And we all know that garbage in, garbage out, right? So the first thing that you need to do is ensure that the data that you're putting into this new system that's going to help you change things, it needs to be good data so that you get good, clean insights out of it. So what we suggest is when you're talking to vendors, talk to them to see if they'll actually help you with this, because it usually becomes a very protracted project with issues popping up everywhere. The way we solve this is we work with the customers, we write scripts, we take all of the data, clean it up, ensure it's accurate, and then put that in the new system. That is the best case scenario if you can actually get the vendor to do it. But if you can't, then ensure you prioritize that project, because if you imagine you have all of the clean data available, the vendor team comes in, they put all of that into their system, they show, how the system works to your employees with your current business data. It is just so much easier, right? So ensure that, that's done properly. The next thing is ownership. So it is very, very crucial to ensure that during the implementation, especially, there is a very clear point of contact on both sides of the equation, on the vendor side as well as from your own company, because someone needs to project manage everything from one side and give that to the other and ensure that there is proper communication flowing. That's the next point that we have, that's there actually, like support, right? Ensure there is very good communication flowing, there's nothing slipping through the cracks, right? The way we solve it is we actually have one very specific POC that talks to the vendor side, and we also have like the Slack channel, which is basically like a group chat kind of application where anybody from the client side can ask questions, and we're here to immediately answer, right? Especially if you look at the period just after implementation, like the vendor side has come in, they've trained your employees, and then now they're back to their offices. That first new period is when you'll have a lot of questions, a lot of doubts. Some things that they said during the training might have slipped your mind, and you have questions, and you can't keep waiting on email. You need to have like a place you can call, a place you can just message and immediately get an answer back. So ensure that that is there. The last thing is hardware issues. This is specifically applicable to hardware that is mission critical for your business, right? So if you have hardware like that, ensure that there is always a plan B, a backup in case the hardware goes down. Like we have heard stories from customers where they went with the specific hardware vendor, and when that software went down, it brought down the entire truck, and they were just stranded in the middle of nowhere, and they didn't know what to do, right? Like you don't want to end up in a situation like that. So what do you do if that mission critical hardware breaks down? That is a plan B that you need to have beforehand. So that is about it. To kind of summarize the entire webinar, Rohit, if you can go to the next slide, there are basically 2 points, right? If you are feeling any of the pains that we have mentioned, then it is time to start, your digital transformation journey. Understand, it's critical to understand where you want to go, in the next few months, in the next year, in the next 10 years, etc. And find a tech partner that kind of ticks all the boxes that we had spoken about, that will enable you to, be agile to the environment, try out experiments, who will evolve with you and grow with you, so that you can get your business to the position that you wanted to be in, right? So that's about it.
Thank you, everybody, for attending today. Thank you, Fleet Panda, for such a great presentation. And again, their information is in there. If anyone on this call has any follow-up questions or wants to reach out, please let me know, and I will be sure to put you in touch with them. Other than that, thank you. Have a great rest of your Thursday, and look forward to talking with everyone soon. Thank you.
Thank you.